Hey, I'm Alex back from Board Game Co, and this is Two Back or Not to Back, where we're going to go through a variety of crowdfunding campaigns, talking about the campaigns, the goals, the stretch goals, the add-ons, the pledges, all the usual things and more, and of course, links and timestamps to everything down below. As usual, before we begin, we're going to go ahead and start off with our Call to the Now. We're about to dive through a variety of crowdfunding campaigns, all of them exciting, all of them asking for your money, all of them promising you $10 off MSRP as a magical discount that it doesn't make sense. It's not enough. I'm telling you, it's not enough. But before we do that, you can go ahead and check out games you can get your hands on now, and today's Call to the Now is going to be Evenfall. Evenfall coming to you from Matago, I believe, from another publisher than Matago's distributing. I don't know exactly. This is a delightful game based on the one play I have of it. I will be playing it more and hopefully have a review for you, but I played it one time, really enjoyed this one, and it's available for $48 for Miniature Market. $48, that's it. Not a $100 euro, not a $250 euro. It's a $48 euro game. Good games, great games can be had now, can be had without waiting, can be had with more reviews, and can be affordable. And with that little splash of reality, let's go ahead and dive into crowdfunding. But before we do, usual reminder that I am CMO of GameFound. Please take that into account as we go through this video series and any potential bias that can cause. And with that, let's start off with our board game adjacent category. Board game adjacent is going to start with Jumbo Cat dice set from Q Workshop. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's a Jumbo Cat dice set over here. 280 backers, $31,000, 31,000 euro raised. These are basically dice. They're dice on these Jumbo Cats over here. The Jumbo Cat dice. There's not that many ways I can say this one over here. It's a bunch of cats on dice, if you want that kind of thing, from Q Workshop, who make fantastic series of dice, left, right, and center. Actually, I wonder what the add-ons they have on. Are they focusing on the cat? Looks like they're focusing very heavily on the cat theme, not focusing on the other lines, which makes sense, honestly. Q Workshop has so many lines of products over here, it would be hard to really showcase them over here. I'm not going to heavily go through the individual items over here. Again, this is more board game adjacent, but there's a lot of dice in case you want to go ahead and check any of those out. From there, we're going to have the Armory, the ultimate modern weapons guide from Evil Genius Games. 571 backers, $28,000 raised. The Armory is the ultimate weapons guide. I think it's specifically modern weapons, the ultimate modern day weapons guide, giving you access to tons and tons of things. It's compatible with 5e, it's built on the Everyday Hero system, RPG system from them, and it has lots of weapons, and more weapons, and then more weapons, and then lots of weapons, and then stats on weapons. And if you didn't get the gist so far, there's going to be more weapons going through the whole thing. Their goal is to be like the ultimate modern weapon set, period, bar none. They want to have it like completely and totally covered, done a lot of research incorporating it all into this. So if RPGs and weapon guides are your things, and you want your mages or whatever class or character you want them handling a variety of weapons, well, this might be the set for you. From there, we have rolling board game bags and artist illustrated playmats. 1,100 backers, $120,000 raised. This is coming to you from Allplay, and they're doing exactly what it sounds like. They're doing artist illustrated playmats. They already do playmats, but now they're doing specifically artist illustrated ones. But then it also has a rolling board game bag. Allplay makes, in my opinion, the best all-around board game bag. I think the Crafting Kingdoms one is pretty solid, but also it's a little more expensive. So you know, a little toss up as far as which one's gonna be right for you. But I do find that I personally go with the Allplay bags. I use it the most commonly. I have a Crafting Kingdoms prototype one. I have the Allplay. The Allplay is my go-to, and the Crafting Kingdoms is my backup. But from those are the two best brands of board game bags that I've used. The Allplay, it holds up well. It holds a lot of games. The original version way back when, once the strap or some seam ripped or something like that. But since then, the newer version, which they've had for a long time, it has held every single thing I can throw it at with no issues, no tearing, no anything that would in any way imply that it is in any way lacking. And now they added wheels to it. So now they have the same bag and wheels, but they have a bunch of pledge levels for you, a variety of pledge levels. We have our lightweight bag for $7. I actually have a few of these. These are decent. The main point of these is it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a lightweight bag. I would not trust this to be the best and everything. I mean, the ones I have not ripped, but it is a little thinner material. It doesn't feel like a premium bag, but if you're just looking for a quick way to hold a bunch of 12 by 12 Ticket to Ride size board game boxes, this does the job because it's designed to hold that standard size box and do so effectively. So stop using shopping bags. Use this $7 bag. Granted, shopping bags are cheaper, but if you have this could be your cheap go-to. I'm just carrying a few bags to game night, a few games to game night. If you're carrying a few bags to game night, I don't know what exactly it is you're playing. But then outside of that, we also have, if we scroll through the pledge levels, where's my mouse over here? We have the Playmats over here. I also have one of these, by the way. I have one of these, I believe, in blue. I do enjoy it. I've used it a lot for, especially when I'm traveling and I want to have access to this, or if I'm just throwing it over some generic dining room table or whatnot. I've used and enjoyed their Playmat. I think it's very high quality. And then we have the premium board game bag for $60. And then we have the artist illustrated Playmat for $70 over here. And we have the rolling board game bag for $99. And then there's a variety of bundles over here where you can bundle to save more money on different options as well. But the rolling board game bag over here, same basic board game bag. This also lets you treat it like luggage. I'm looking at you, Grant Lyon. I know you flew with your board game bag to Dice Tower East, but you could have wheeled it around the airport for a mere $40 more. You could have treated it like an actual piece of luggage, and then please tell me you don't, like, tell me you're using it as a carry-on. You probably can't use it as a carry-on. You're checking a board game bag full of board games? Oh dear Lord, I'm having palpitations. Anyways, if you want to go ahead and have access to a board game bag that you can also drop on the floor and start wheeling around, this is going to be for you. I've never tried this one. I can't speak for it at all. I do like the idea of having the accessibility of both. I don't know what extra weight it adds, but it seems like a good idea in theory. I'm just interested in actually trying it from there. But past that, we have our rolling board game bag, we have our board game bag, we have our playmats, we have all these various things, and you have this little token over here. These are little things that they give, these little perks you can cash in for different things, but you have to spend at least $149 to go ahead and get this little limited medallion. I believe they've let them trade, I think they've been letting people trade those in for small box games, the new small box lines, but I could be mistaken on those. But either way, that's the basic idea of this. This is not going to be, should you back or should you not. I don't really know about the holding its value part. Haven't tried selling this stuff or whatnot, so I don't know any of that. All I'm saying is this is my personal go-to bag on the market. From there, we have the Playmat Sanctuary, a safe haven for your treasure playmats. 2,400, we have a lot of board game adjacent this week. 2,400 backers, $85,000 raised. This is focused more on standard card game playmats, Yu-Gi-Oh, MTG, things like that, if you're diving into that world. I'm sure it would work for a lot of board game playmats, but I don't know if it would work for all board game playmats. In fact, I'm certain it wouldn't work for all board game playmats, so do your research before you buy this. But if you are interested in this, this is a relatively affordable way to hold a lot of playmats. Again, the main issue you're going to want to look into is the sizing of it. They have options for buying a single one, for buying multiples, for buying 4 of them, 10 of them, 8 of them. I think it was 8, not 10. 15 of them, in case you want that. 30, if you are really dedicated about your playmats, there's 30 of them, and I think that's as high as it gets, fortunately, because if I went above 30, I don't know what I would do. But that's the basic idea of this campaign over here. You can check it out more, see if it's a fit for you and your specific playmats, and that's that campaign. Which means we finally dive into updates. We're not yet into the new campaigns, we're into the updates over here. This is going to be a minor thing. I will be doing a full Should You Back It on DC United. I already covered it last week. Right now I'm just going to focus on the few updated options over here. Last week I believe they had the Metropolis expansion, but they've since added Justice Society of America, Gotham City, Green Lantern Corps, and Team Decks. And just quick notes on those, Gotham City is going to give you all the various bat thingies, as well as the bat single challenge. So you can have a specific challenge in this one. You have a variety of heroes over here, just the new content in the very bat-themed category. We have Justice League of America, which lets you go head-to-head versus heroes. It's going to be another competitive mode in the game. There already are various ways of playing Marvel United as a competitive game. This adds a new one where you can go player to player, trying to rescue civilians, attack henchmen or thugs, whatever it is, and then attack each other as well in order to get victory points over each other. That's going to be the Justice League Society of America over here. We have the Green Lantern Corps, which I don't recall if this gives you anything new. I think this, well, it gives you specific equipment cards for, well, it gives you team cards, which we'll get in a second, but it gives you specific equipment cards for the various heroes that let you basically use certain symbols in a repeated fashion by using your green power ring. But past that, it looks like it's fairly straightforward, focusing on the heroes. It has a team deck, it has heroes, and it has specific equipment for those heroes. And then we have the team deck over here, and the team deck is going to let you form custom teams. This is something that I want to say they did. I don't remember. They definitely did it in the Marvel United multiverse. I don't recall if they did it in X-Men, but the idea is it gives you certain teams or groups or whatnot. I think, if I recall correctly, I think X-Men had the concept of them, and then the Marvel United multiverse started really letting you team up all the stuff and creating more structures. So you have teams of characters that all work together in different ways. But that's the basic idea of these team decks over here. So if you want your DC system to be all teamed up, that's going to let you do that. And that's basically what we have over here. We have a playmat, paint-in compendium, a metal two-faced coin over here, some basic other things, and then of course more and more stretch goals. But we won't heavily focus on that, although we should focus on Condiment King. Condiment King is here to stay, everybody, so you can go ahead and check him out. But we will, of course, have more covers in a dedicated Should You Back that I want to say will go up the Tuesday before the campaign ends. I think that's maybe 48 hours away from campaign end. Not sure exactly, but you can check that out when that happens. And then maybe we'll cover it next week, too, if there's any more updates, which I'm sure there will be, but we'll take a look and see. From there, the new campaigns. We are finally up to the new campaigns over here. Not that long. I talk relatively quickly. We have Flames of Fafnir, a physics-based board game. 843 backers, $91,000 raised, 8 days to go. Flames of Fafnir is coming to you from Lucky Duck Games and is giving you a physics-based, how do you describe this? This is going to be a competitive experience that also has a way for it to turn into a one versus many. It has sort of semi-co-op elements, but not entirely. It's going to be Flames of, and it's physics-based, and involves the dragon rolling marbles that are going to take down your village. This is Flames of Fafnir. I have review coverage up on my channel. You can check that out. There's a gameplay channel over on the Dice Tower. There's gameplay over on oh my gosh, No Wills Barred, and there's a variety of other content around there. But the basic idea is you are a team of heroes who are going up against Fafnir. Now the game starts off as competitive despite sounding cooperative. You are trying to take down Fafnir, but there is a point scoring system in which one player will walk out the winner. Although there is an opportunity for one player to go ahead and take control of Fafnir and try to see if he can go ahead and destroy the village instead, or he or she can destroy the village instead, and if successful, they'll win. Otherwise, the other players still win against Fafnir. That's the basic idea of the game. But anyways, as far as the pledge levels over here, we have the €79 basic pledge level that gives you access to the game, as well as the Kickstarter expansion, which gives you the various extras and stretch goals they're all adding. And we have the collector pledge for €159, which gives you the 2 expansions as well as the miniature Fafnir. Fafnir comes in either a cardboard standee version. So if you're looking at this image here and you're like, boom, I'll buy it and get that €79 and get that. No, there's a cardboard standee version. Well, it's complicated. It's more of a cardboard assembly version of Fafnir. Or alternatively, you can get the giant miniature version of Fafnir. That's still going to be dependent on the pledge levels, although I believe it's available as an optional buy as well, in case you do want to break it out to your own thing. I didn't really talk a lot about the gameplay loop. The gameplay loop is heroes take actions to wander around the board, to build various buildings. Buildings will obstruct Fafnir and obstruct the marbles from rolling into the village, but they'll also give you benefits when you build them and when they get destroyed, so it's good to have them on the board. The expansions are going to focus on 2 things. We have the expansion that gives you the small little dragons that Fafnir is going to use against the heroes, which gives Fafnir a leg up, but to compensate, it also gives the heroes, some destiny cards or whatnot. I believe it's destiny cards. Secret objectives with not so secret rewards for the heroes to compensate against that. And the Valhalla expansion is going to have you replacing certain buildings over here in the game, so you can replace different buildings with these altars and benefit from a variety of other effects as well in the altars expansion, giving you these fun little cool buildings. That's basically Flames of Fafnir. As far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value? I'm skeptical it will. I think the price point on the game, and we also factor in shipping as well. Shipping estimates over here, if we scroll down, so over here, United States is going to be here, $19 to $24 on top of that over there, which means you're looking at $100+ for the basic pledge, or $200 for the more advanced pledge, and that's just a lot of money for the game. And with 843 backers, I'm just not confident that that level of demand is there. I think Lucky Duck in general they have a lot of ambitious games that are very unique. They don't fit into any one trope. They have a lot of different ways they approach it. Some of the games have really landed for me, some not so much, but their games are always a little bit of a risk because of that. And with 843 backers, given the current price point, I'm just a little skeptical that this one is having that degree of being received as well, and that will translate onto the secondhand market as well. Moving on over here, we have Small City Deluxe Edition Arcology's expansion. 513 backers, $16,000 raised, 9 days to go, coming to you from AV Studio Games, Looty Booster over here. This is an expansion to Small Cities. Now to Small City, the Small City game, whatnot. And Small City had the original campaign with I believe, the winter expansion. They had a follow-up campaign with 2 new seasons as well, whatever they were. I don't remember, spring and fall or whatever, or summer and fall, I don't remember offhand. And they have the new expansion over here, Arcologies, which is basically a final little this is a small box expansion that gives the players a endgame trigger that relies on the players, where endgame will happen when one player finally blasts off into, I believe, space over here. Basically, the players are, what's the whole point of this initial final frontier, or not final frontier, this initial thing in on the ground? You're really trying to make space your final frontier, and to that end, you are going off into launching in space to discover new habitable worlds. To that end, the game end will trigger when an arcology tile takes off, which makes it a player-deterministic game end, more similar to Terraforming Mars, something like that, as opposed to a fixed number of rounds or a fixed endgame trigger instead. As far as the pledge levels over here, for $15, you get a copy of the Small City Deluxe Edition Arcology expansion. It is worth noting, all the pledges in this campaign are limited, because I believe he's going to be assembling some things, or putting together, what's he doing? He is assembling this expansion, rules, components, wooden pieces, and tiles by hand. So there's some degree of by hand assembly going on here, which is why he's limited the various pledges. So if you are interested in this, this is the kind of thing that might sell out. With 9 days left to go in the current backers, there is a possibility that it sells out. Not trying to cause FOMO, just awareness. If you are sure you want this, back it now. Even if you're not sure, back it now. You can always drop it versus waiting to the end and finding out that they've all been taken. We have the All Expansions pledge for $115, giving you, well, all expansions to Small City. And then we have the Big Bundle, giving you everything, including Small City itself, the base game, for $175. As far as should you back it, should you not, will hold its value. And there's a whole shipping chart as well over here with the additional shipping costs there. The short version is less likely so. If you look at the original Small City, which I believe was $100 for the 2 games, or Small City plus Winter, that generally has not held its value on the secondhand market, going from anywhere from $65 to $85 for that, not even factoring shipping. So it's one that people definitely lost money on if they back that game. And I think I haven't really checked the newest batch of expansions, but that's likely to hold true across the board. If you are just interested in guaranteeing access to all the stuff, especially with the limited print run, that's a good reason to back this here. But if you're looking at the general larger pledges and whether it will or won't hold its value, I'm skeptical it will, just based on the past campaigns. Moving on, we have the Cursed Castle Solo Game of the Month from Gabe Barrett from Barrett Publishing. 1,100 backers, $27,000 raised, 11 days left to go. The Cursed Castle looks to be leaning into a Darkest Dungeon style of art and gameplay. The basic idea is going to be a solo game in which you're going to be picking a dungeon to go through, you're going to be having a boss and a bunch of enemies to fight off against, you're going to have a bunch of heroes that you're lining up in a line of a bunch of heroes against a bunch of enemies. This might seem vaguely reminiscent, and then you're going to be trying to basically satisfy so basically attack the enemies, giving them all the cubes you need to take down the enemies through using your abilities, your characters. You're going to have a whole set of abilities and different gear and equipment that they have access to. And you're trying to figure out that little puzzle of optimization until eventually you can take down the boss. So again, both thematically as far as the art as well as the general presentation, looks like it's leaning towards a Darkest Dungeon approach, while being very, very, very different than the Darkest Dungeon board game in every possible sense of the word, from price point to gameplay style. As far as the pledge level, speaking of price point over here, we have $24 for the Cursed Castle, and then $5 for the print and play, and the shipping is going to run you, I believe, $5 or $6. That's usually what happens. Yep, $5 or $6, depending on where you are, for this Solo Game of the Month series. This is coming to you from Barrett Publishing, Solo Game of the Month series. He does this every single month. As far as should you back or should you not, will hold its value. Same usual conversation here. If you want to guarantee access to this at a reasonable price point, this is going to be the best way to do so. But in general, these are always going to be a toss-up. I say the same thing every single time I cover these, which is any individual solo game of the month may well be the one that holds its value. There's always different levels of demand for different things depending on how well a game is received, especially because these aren't going to have easy access otherwise. So there will be those that end up being just, sought after, and yes, they'll hold their value. But as a general note for the series, I usually assume most of them will not, just based on the small box game and the shipping. Even though shipping is reasonable, just what you're getting over here, I assume for the most part they usually will not hold their value. But if you want to guarantee access, it's usually the best way to do so. From there we have the Catacombs Fortress of Nazemoor, 524 backers, $59,000 raised, 11 days to go, coming to you from Sera Publishing. Catacombs is a line of games that's been around for a while. It's had first edition, second edition, it's had third edition, it's had the Catacombs and Castles second edition, Catacombs Fortress of Nazemoor. There's a whole spreadsheet of different products to go through here, which means some of my notes might be a little bit generic because of that. But Catacombs Fortress of Nazemoor is going to be an expansion to Catacombs that is going to give you I believe if I'm not mistaken, it was a one versus many. Let me scroll down over here. I believe it's a one versus many addition to the Catacombs universe, built on the same infrastructure and gameplay. Let's see if I can find this over here. I just want to make sure I'm right. Catacombs, Fortress of Nazemoor, here we go. It's a one versus many dungeon crawler compatible with the Catacombs 3rd edition game, which, by the way, the Catacombs as a system is basically a dexterity-based dungeon crawler. You're flicking, that's what you have. You're going to have walls, and we don't necessarily need walls, but there are walls to kind of loop you in. You're flicking various discs, you're taking things down through the concept of flicking stuff against stuff and attacking things. It's a flicking-based dungeon crawler, exactly what it sounds like over here. The pledge levels are going to be a lot to go through over here. So again, because there's so much Catacomb stuff out there, we have the Pledge Manager Access for $5. We have the Unified Catacombs Manual for $30, which again, giving you all the stuff in a unified single place over there. We have $55 for the Fortress of Nazemoor expansion. That's going to be the main focus of this campaign over here. We have the Fortress of Nazemoor Big Box for $79. Third edition big box for $99. We have the Prospector bundle for $169, which gives you the Fortress of Nazemoor and the Catacombs big box for a single bundle over here. And then we have the Big Box Plus for $249, and then the Elven Queen bundle giving you the big box versions of everything for $319. And there's a lot as far as add-ons as well. If you get to the add-ons, there's going to be a bunch of ways to upgrade the game. So you have the coins, you have the Unified Manual, you have the Wyverns of Wilmer 2nd edition over here, components only, and then we have the Epic Playmat for $30, giving you an epic playmat for the game. And this game, more so than others, that playmat might matter because of the nature of it being a flicking game. So if you're someone who's like, I don't use playmats, that might be true. You might want to reconsider it on this one just because of the nature of the game. Past that, shipping is going to be a nightmare. I'm not going to really go through it because shipping is like this kind of whole spreadsheet of everything going on here. Just a lot to process and look at because, well, there's a lot to go on over here. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? This is where I'm going to go into generics as far as specifics because, again, there's so much stuff out there in the Catacombs line. I would say if you are someone who's interested in this content, this might just be, it depends. A lot of the things that Elzra has sold on crowdfunding and a lot of their pledges post the campaign have not done a great job holding the value. The problem is there's so much different stuff that it's also a mess trying to track down specific stuff. So just judging it from my own 2 cents as a gamer and just the position I'd be in and looking at this if I wanted this, I believe you will almost certainly be able to get this cheaper on the secondhand market, and inherently, therefore, this will not hold its value if you find it's not a game for you. But the flip side of that is trying to track down the right combination of stuff that you want on the secondhand market will likely be a nightmare just because of how much content there is out there. So I would say if you're someone who just wants the cheapest possible version, is not as particular about exactly what you get, secondhand market is probably still the best way to go. Whereas if you do want specific things, you just want to round out your Catacombs collection, well, I think backing on the campaign, while not necessarily the best price point compared to how it'll hold its value down the road, is going to be the easiest way to do so. Moving on, we have Jim Henson's Labyrinth, the board game, 40th anniversary collection. 1,100 backers, 117,000 pounds raised, 14 days to go. This is going to be exactly what it sounds like, the 40th anniversary edition of Labyrinth, Jim Henson's Labyrinth, a game that came out a while ago, and this is going to be a reprint as well as new content for the game. But this basically, as far as the gameplay, by the way, I'm not going to be focusing on the gameplay a lot. I don't really know the gameplay of Labyrinth. I know the game itself is not that well rated, and this does seem to be compatible, meaning it's a reprint and new content, but it doesn't seem like they're really changing up the game itself. So if you're someone who's affected by the BG ratings, or if you use that as your guide for whether this game is for you or not, then this may well not be for you. I do think this is tapping into a larger audience of fans of the game and more mass market gamers, so that I think this might be, well, I think it depends on who the audience is for this game. You have to know that going in. If you're coming at this from a collector, or hoping to use it for your gateway friends, this might be a right fit. But if you're looking at it for your hardcore strategy group, just based on BG ratings, I don't think this will be the right fit. But over here for the campaign over here, it's basically giving you some upgraded everything for the game. More miniatures, more content, more everything, and get all the exclusive items, save over £70 over here. Why Back Now, exclusive humongous expansion, all new minigame, removable helmet, just like fun just amount of content for the game. But if we scroll down to the actual pledge levels, we have the Goblin King for £119, giving you every single thing you need in that big box, so all the new content, period, full stop, whatever you don't have to have it. Assuming you don't have everything till now. We have the Piece of Cake, which is going to be the brand new exclusives to add to your collection. So again, this is going to be the new items only if you already have other stuff. And then we have Wise Man for those who have the core game and adventure game but want basically everything else. And if you click on these, you'll see the full breakdown of what's included. We have the Ready Steady Worm, the revised rulebook, the card game, all these basic stuff. And again, you'll see the same breakdown of only 4 items over here, the specific new content for the game. So just figuring out which pledge level is right for you, assuming you're interested, and then assuming if you're going all in from the ground up, or if you're adding to your content over here. And it's actually interesting. We have 493 backers on this one, 139 on the Piece of Cake, and 54 on the Wise Man so far. As far as shipping over here, shipping is not going to be cheap either. Shipping is going to be £18 for the Piece of Cake, £23 for the Wise Man, and £27 for the Goblin King. Not cheap, but not particularly crazy either. That's going to be Labyrinth. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? Again, to kind of have to know your audience there. If you're looking at the second-hand market on this game, the second-hand market is not pretty to this game. This is a game that has been, you can find copies for $5 or $10 for the game because, again, from the people who are most likely to dabble in a second-hand market on board games are more traditional standard is the wrong term, are more board game geek gamers. Meaning if you're someone who's in the more mass market, you often don't really deal in the second market as well. Games aren't treated as well. There's not as much confidence you'll find things, versus from a hobbyist perspective, much more so. Which means the second-hand market in this one is less likely to be there fully. There always is that asterisk as a more of a collectible item, especially with the giant big box presentation. There's a possibility things can change. You could hop on eBay and someone who really wanted this game because they're a huge fan of the movie might show up. So they'll always find some option, but in general, the second-hand market is less likely to be very well on this one. From there, we have Pandora Celeste from Gun Tower Games. 313 backers, £28,000, and 15 days left to go. Pandora Celeste is, so here's the problem, because every time I talk about this game, I always want to say, it's a Nemesis-adjacent game, and theme-wise, it is Nemesis-adjacent. Theme-wise, it's going to hit the same notes Nemesis is hitting, in the sense that you have a bunch of crew members, all with their own goals that may or may not align with others. So, you and I can both win together, or you and I can have conflicting goals and not be able to do so. And you're on a spaceship with aliens crawling through the corridors. So, if you hear those beats, yes, this definitely sounds like Nemesis. And theme-wise, there's no question it's in the same world as Nemesis. Gameplay-wise, on the other hand, it's totally different. Gameplay-wise, you can have these fun cards, you can have an element of deck building, or hand management or whatnot. You can be trying to play cards tactically, try to, figure out what actions you can take every single round as you retreat up into these various corridors. Gameplay-wise, it's very, very different. In fact, they actually made a point of including a few quotes on the page talking about how different it is from Nemesis. And again, both things are true. I think thematically, I don't think there's any denying that this fits into the same universe as a Nemesis-style game. It just has the same high-level beats. Gameplay-wise, it's very, very different. So it depends which way you're approaching it. If you're coming at it from the theme, yes. If you're coming at it from the actual gameplay, not as much. Past that, the game itself is going to have, a few pledges. Let's go to the pledge levels over here. Pledge levels are going to have we have the base game for £47 over here, which is going to give you the basic experience at a more budgetary price point. There is a fun element, by the way, where the box is the board as well, so you can kind of just unpack, sprawl it over, and you have your board right there. And then over here for £70 instead, you get the full game, which unlocks access to the full ship, which you don't need to play, just gives you a different experience, and you're going to have more crew as well as acrylic standees, so a bunch of extras you're going to get in this deluxe game pledge. There's also the print and play, £5 for the print and play version of the game if you want to go ahead and dive into it that way. And that's basically what we have over here for the main elements, plus some early bird pledges that gave you some extra stuff. I believe it gave an extra add-on. It gave you the Shapeshifter expansion as a free add-on for those who backed in the first 48 hours. As far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value, all of that. I'm skeptical it will. The game has been very well received from those who played it. I've had a chance to play it as well. It is a very good experience overall, but I just think that it hasn't managed to find its audience as strongly. And so that, 313 backers is nice. I'm glad it's funded. But as far as, and again, the £47 for the base game is not bad at all, although you have to factor in shipping as well. Let's go down to shipping. Where is shipping? Estimated fulfillment cost, here we go. So you're going to be looking at around $20 for the game over there. So again, once you add it all up, it's not a crazy price point, but especially if you're getting the higher pledge level, you're looking at close to $100, which is a lot more to go through. And with 313 backers, I am skeptical this one will hold its value, but if you want to guarantee access to it, crowdfunding is the way to go. With only 313 backers currently, even if that gets to like 600 by the end of the campaign, there's just not going to be a ton of copies out there in the wild. Moving on, we have Wandering Galaxy, a Crossroads game. 1,500 backers, $128,000 raised, 17 days to go. This is coming to you from Plaid Hat Games. I think it's their first time crowdfunding, if I'm not mistaken. Like, they've had a lot of games for a long time. They've had a fascinating story. They sold to Asmodee at one point. They bought it back. There's been like some fascinating developments and stories around Plaid Hat and their origin in the space. But I believe this is their first time in crowdfunding. This is technically their third game in the Crossroads series. It depends how you look at it. I think Dead of Winter was the first Crossroads game. Then they had Gen 8 was the second Crossroads game. But they seem to be not counting that in the Crossroads series. I don't know exactly what that terminology is. But we have Freelancers, we have Forgotten Waters, and then we have Wandering Galaxy. Now, I understand the desire to disassociate Gen 8. It wasn't really received well. Dead of Winter, I think, was received well, but I also think it's a different style of game, which is, I think, probably why they're not counting it in the series. Dead of Winter had the Crossroads mechanic, which is basically these sets of cards that result in certain situations happening, but it's a very different type of game than the follow-ups games that they've had since then. That's why I'm not as sure exactly their way they're approaching this one. Past that, Wandering Galaxy is going to be a game for 1 to 6 players. It's going to be app integrated, although it looks like on this campaign they are giving you journals to not have to deal with the app integration, because there are many out there, myself included, who don't want to deal with an actual app and would rather read through a storybook, because even though it's a little more of a process to flip through a storybook as opposed to using an interface, very often I find the interface just takes me out of the experience. I almost always prefer not to have an app involved in my board game, or at least have the possibility to do either, so I have complete agency over what I want. But past that, this is a game, you're wandering the galaxy, you're taking on jobs, you're trying to make the payments on your ship to eventually pay off your ship, you're going to choose heroes, you're going to level them up, achieve notoriety, get various titles, all the various things in this RPG / story-driven / cooperative game. I'm pretty sure it's a cooperative game, I'm pretty sure. I might be wrong with the cooperative part, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's cooperative. I'm just realizing I think I've been assuming it, but I might be wrong. Let's say it's maybe cooperative, but make sure to double check that in case you are diving into this game. But anyways, that's the basic idea of the game itself. As far as the, let's go through this over here. As far as the pledge levels are going to be a few over here. We have the starting pledge level for, let's go this way. We have $60 for the starting game. It's down from a $70 MSRP, so you're saving $10 off the MSRP. Although, as usual, I will have thoughts on that. We also have, that's the gameplay. Let's scroll down over here. We have the Forgotten Waters plus Wandering Galaxy for $100, and the same idea. So we have Wandering Galaxy plus Freelancers for $100. So that's basically, if you do the math on that, that means you're getting the second game for $40. This is relevant because if you look online, the typical price point for these games is around $47, $48, depending on which online retailer you're looking at. Obviously, this is dependent on which country you're in as well. If you're buying it internationally, you may not have access to that price point, but if you are in the US, you're looking at getting these games, the Crossroads series of games, for around $48. And that's relevant because for an additional $40, the $40 off is a good discount. You're getting it only for $40 as opposed to getting it for, that extra game. The second game is $40 once you decide you want in. And then we have the whole series for $130, which is, again, even better. That's a $40 for the second game and $30 for the third game, which is a great price point, but you should still do the math on the full entire thing, because the entire thing, if you do $48 times 3, you're basically looking at $120, $144. It sounds about right. I think it's like $143 when you actually break it out. So you're looking at around $143 for everything, which is, that's a reasonable price point for $143 for all 3 games if you bought them at retail. So if you wait till they all show up in retail, if you just bought them at retail pricing, you're looking at $143 with free shipping. Versus over here, you're looking at $130 with, I believe, $10 shipping. So you're looking at $10 shipping, and they are an estimate for the base game only, which means that will probably go up. So in other words, the 130 turns into 140, but it's 140 plus because it's going to be plus the base game, plus the other games you get over there. So realistically speaking, even the best price point possible on this campaign, if you get all 3 together, is really still giving you a price point that is roughly equivalent to retail, but getting the games far later, far down the road. And that's roughly equivalent, and so it's just, again, you'd have to get all 3 games for this to be even a comparably good deal. Otherwise, you're paying more on the campaign than retail, despite the various savings at play. So that's going to factor into, like, if you're wondering at the campaign, like, especially with Forgotten Waters, with Plaid Hat Games, if you're wondering why they're only looking at 1,500 backers despite their reputation, I think it's just the fact that you're not really getting anything extra here, and the deal you're getting is, for the most part, not really a deal. Now, there are reasons to back now, but I will say, my own pet peeve, the why back now, $10 off MSRP, giant exclamation point, $10, a savings, a lot of game for a little price. I can't stand that. I really can't stand it, and I guess this is my own pet peeve, and a lot of companies do this, and I always talk about it. I always bring it up every time I do these two-back and not-to-backs, but sometimes I pick a moment to like just have a little bit of event, and usually it's when it's like really highlighted as a reason to back now, because for most people, that is not a savings. But most people who don't necessarily, like, there's going to be different categories of people. There's going to be the category of people who it is a savings for. And those people, whether it's international, lower access, whether they only buy the game's MSRP, there's going to be some people who that actually is a savings. The problem is you're $10 off MSRP. When you add the $10 shipping, you're getting a $0 savings on MSRP, and it's being touted as like this giant thing that is a good reason to back now. There are many reasons to back now that I can get behind, and you don't always have to save money. You really don't. You do not always have to save money to back a game. There are many good reasons to back a game. But I hate it when they pretend that you're saving money. I hate it when they act like, yes, you're going to save money, when you can do the basic math and realize that for most people, you're not saving anything. You want to tout it there, throw it there in some way, shape, or form, but make it clear that there's not. Don't pretend there's a giant savings when there's not. I don't like that. Whatever, and again, Plat Hat, if you watched the video, I'm sorry, but like I'm fine with publishers. Publishers have to do a lot to stay afloat. Publishers are always in a hard space. I try to support publishers whenever I can, but I also try to call it like it is whenever I can. There's a weird balance between trying to be direct and transparent to my audience, to you, about the reality of what a situation is, versus trying to support and enable publishers. And I always want to do both, and sometimes you have to pick a side. And when it comes to these things, when a publisher sits there and swears up and down that there's some sort of savings for you, when realistically speaking there's not, and you're paying more, I can't stand that. I can't. They know the retail space. They know what it's like. It's $10 off. It's not a savings. It's just not a savings. And so I hate the fact that it's there. I hate the fact that it's the first item. I hate the fact that it's disingenuous about the nature of actual savings. For most people, you are paying more money for this game on crowdfunding. And that's okay, but it's not a reason to back. The fake savings is not a reason to back now. I'm sorry for my little vent over here. Publishers know this. Publishers know this. For most people, it's not a savings. Anyways, this other reasons are all good reasons to back. You don't have to save money. You don't. I don't. That's the thing. As much as my two back and not back series is focused on, is it the best time to get it? Do you want to get it in the secondhand market? Do you want to get it retail? As much as there's definitely a focus on that, I am totally for the idea that sometimes you just don't want to have to think about it. Sometimes you want to support the publisher. Sometimes you want to get it early. Sometimes you just can't be bothered to deal with it later or forget. Sometimes you like the idea of spending money today for a gift showing up on your doorstep. There are great reasons to back a game that don't involve saving money. But don't put a fake savings in the why back now when it's not an actual savings. Anyways, the next reason, we see the game before it officially hits retail. Great reason to back. If that's important to you, great reason to back. Entry books. This is a good reason to back. We've heard the demand for a physical entry book. If you missed it over here on the add-ons, they have these entry books where you can pay $30 for different entry books, so you don't have to deal with the app and the game. You can read through these. You can read through the books instead. So that's a great reason to back this campaign. A really solid reason. What else do we have? We have support the publisher. You like us, hopefully. That's a great reason to back. Plat Hat's like one of those like small medium publishers who have really been around. They have a track record for great games. They've consistently delivered good experiences. They are a solid publisher. I'm totally fine supporting. I just don't like this thing over here with the fake whatever. So anyways, should you back or should you not? Honestly, if you're getting all three games, it's not the worst, but just understand you're not really saving money at that point. You're just, you're primarily supporting a publisher and or getting the game early, although you have to factor in you're getting some of the games later than you would, because the old games that you can otherwise get today, you have to wait for when this campaign delivers. Although, to be fair, they say the game is mostly finished. It is hopefully coming sooner. They seem to be treating it as retail with a dash of crowdfunding mixed in. So overall, if you're getting all three games, I think it's worth considering. If you're getting the other games, then you really just have to be fine with the fact that you're paying more for this campaign. Moving on, we have Kemet, Rise of the Gods from Matago. 4,030 backers, 533,000 euro raised, 17 layers left to go. This is Kemet, Rise of the Gods. It's going to be the newest expansion content for Kemet, as well as an opportunity to get all the old content. So let's talk about the new content, what you have over here. It's Kemet, Rise of the Gods, which means inherently there's going to be some gods. Well, I don't know if inherently, but there are going to be some gods. It's going to be a Rise of the Gods module, which you can go ahead and add to Kemet. Let's go through in order. So we have the Returning God Pledge, we have the content of the Rise of the Gods. Let's scroll down. We have the Gods mode. So these are going to give you gods in the game, where you can have gods that will enter the battlefield at a certain point. There's a trigger for them, and then the gods can just wreak havoc on their own. You can check out my full review of the expansion content. I wasn't able to play everything that is added because they also have a solo mode and a teams mode I didn't get to, but in general I got to try a lot of things. The gods are fun. They're a fun way. They're not essential to me, but they are a fun way to play the game. We have the Amber tiles over here. There's going to be new tiles, so a full new tile faction in the game. I love that. I like having new ways to mix and match your Kemet experience. We have the Amethyst tiles, which again, love that. More new tiles to mix and match. We have the 6-player expansion. I will never use this. I barely like Kemet with 5. 4 is my ideal player count. 5 is tolerable for me. I don't think I'm ever going to use the 6-player. I mean, maybe. I just don't think so. We have the team mode, which I didn't get the chance to try. We have the solo mode, which I did not get a chance to try. And then we have the big box insert, which I just didn't get sent at all. But it's going to be a big box to store all your Kemet content in this game. I believe it's supposed to be future-proof as well. I believe. Did it say? I recall it being future-proof, but I'm not sure about that. Space to store up to 9 tile trays. There we go. I think that's what it was. But anyways, yeah, so this is going to be your giant big box expansion, and then we have that for the vote for the big box over here. You know, which one you want over there, and that's basically what we got. As far as the pledge levels, we have 75 euro over here. That's going to be for the Returning God pledge, giving you the new content for the Kemet game. I've seen a lot of people upset that the big box is inherently being bundled in with the new content, so you kind of, if you want this big box, you have to get the expansion too. I understand that complaint to a small degree, but also if you don't want the expansion content, there's less of a need for the big box. Your current box is fine, so that's it's an interesting complaint that I both understand and also don't at the same time, because you don't need the big box unless you're getting more content. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, I guess? We have the Returning Veteran of Kemet. This is £15, 15 euro for the new Amethyst God tiles, in case you want to upgrade and add it to your original game over here. This is specifically an upgrade for those who held on to the original. I believe this is, you'd need the Seth, if I'm not mistaken. You might need the Seth expansion, I'm not totally sure. We have the Collector God pledge, which gives you all the content, assuming you have the base game. So if you have the base game for Kemet, Blood and Sand, this gives you the new content for 160, and the new God pledge for 230 euros gives you the original base game as well. Now, it's worth noting, by the way, depending on where you're from, those 793 people who are backing this pledge, you're effectively paying 70 euro more to get the base game, which means, and then plus the additional shipping or whatnot, although the shipping, they do have it bundled in the same category, so it might not be additional shipping, but basically that means that if you are someone who's getting that pledge level, if you have access to a copy of Blood and Sand for less than 70 euro, you should go ahead and bite on that, because you'll get the game sooner, and you'll pay less than the 70 euro difference, if that makes sense. Again, the only difference between those two pledge levels is an additional 70 euro for the base game of Kemet, Blood and Sand. So just, you know, whether you're comfortable getting it used, whether you have your local retailer, just look at your options before you too heavily commit on that one. But that's what we have for the game. We also have assorted add-ons and all those things from the base game, the various geek up bits, not geek up bits, the various level up bits that they're called game up. The game up sets that were additional content, exclusive content for the original game, and that's basically what we have for Kemet, Blood and Sand, and all the new content. As far as should you back or should you not, will hold this value. Not 100% easy to say on this one. If you look at the original Kemet, Blood and Sand, the original crowdfunding campaign, and then how it did in the secondhand market after, for a while it did great. For a while people were definitely selling it for much more than they bought their game for. Over time it did drift down. Like if you check now, more recent sales over time, you can get the original Kemet, Blood and Sand that people paid for are selling for like $20, $30 less than whatever they paid for. So over time, over years now, it has definitely shifted in how it held its value, which is not crazy. It's not that untypical. Games often hold the value more at first, and then over time drift as they become less popular or less in the moment, in the now. The thing that's interesting is the box over here. The Kemet box over here, the expansion box, I believe will make this one that's more likely to hold its value even longer term, because that box is going to be something that people want the box, as opposed to, you know, the extra level up or game up sets might not be as intriguing, but I think people will want that box, and I think the low retail presence or lack of retail presence on it will just make it overall more tempting for people. So I think this is more likely to not just hold this value at first, but to hold this value more over time as well. Not a guarantee, of course, but I do think it's probably in that range. Moving on, we have Luthier. Luthier, 3,338 backers, $421,000 raised, 17 days to go. Luthier coming to you from Pavison Games. The art of the instrument is going to be a blind bidding worker placement game in which players are basically trying to earn the favor of the various patrons, getting patrons, then trying to satisfy those patrons' desires through repairing instruments, through building instruments, and through putting on performances. There's a bunch of things going on in this game. You can check out my review. You can check out a dozen other content creators as well from who've covered it, played it, all those various things. There's a lot of content out there on this game. As a blind bidding mechanism for a worker placement, so it's a worker placement blind bidding, in which you place your worker down, but your workers have different strengths, which affects the strength of the action you take, but also the order of the action you take, which gives you better access to earlier things. This is definitely a medium to heavy Euro game that's going to have a lot of things going on. Illustrated by Vincent Dutrait, beautifully illustrated, beautiful production, lots of interweaving elements. This is really a standout game all around. The pledge levels in this one are going to have, we're going to have a lot of pledge levels over here to go through, but we start off at $69 for the basic prelude standard edition of the game, where we have 91 backers currently backing this retail edition of the game. Then over here we have for $99 with a Concerto. 1,200 backers backing this. This is going to add additional 100 additional screen printed wooden player components. So this is basically the deluxe version of the game. It comes with the promo pack as well. I believe they all come with the promo pack, so even that retail version does come with the promo pack from the crowdfunding campaign. And then we have $169 for the Symphony Deluxe Edition plus upgrades. It's going to give you everything you get in the Concerto Deluxe Edition, but it's also giving you realistic resources, it's giving you the Enamel Inspiration Token, custom soundtrack, and engraved worker chips. And then with the Magnum Opus over here, which I think we should probably scroll down the page and show you more, because realistically, you'll get a lot more visibility by scrolling down. They have a nice little what's the difference pledge level breakdown over there, a little bit of an overview of the game, but again, basically short version, well, there's no short version, but I give you my short version of the game as far as trying to give it as distilled, that's funny, that was not pun intended, as distilled as possible in a short time frame version of it. Past that, let's try to scroll down to the pledge levels, because I think you'll have a lot more information going on over there, a lot more visibility as to what you're getting. That was all the basic components of the game we just scrolled past over there, but then we get to the Symphony pledge, €169 over here, gives you all these tokens, these engraved worker chips. These are the main things you're blind bidding with, so these are your workers basically just being drastically upgraded, as well as realistic resources, resin and metal from these very, very cool bits over here. Remind me of like the top shelf gamer type components. These types of things can be very premium, very cool. We have the Enamel Inspiration Tokens, 24 of those, and a digital download, so lots of fun things, but again, bumping your pledge price to $169, from $99 from the cool version, and from $69 from the basic version. Then we have the Magnum Opus Pledge, the All-In, which gives you illustrated instrument standees and bases. One of the elements of the game is as you do different things, you're going to have the opportunity to place your tokens, your instruments, down into the pit or the choir, whatever you call it. I can't remember what you call it, but you're trying to get first chair in various elements in the game. And these tokens are going to help. These tokens are going to be a premium upgraded version of the basic tokens you have in the game, again, giving you just that much more of a table presence. Speaking of table presence, there's going to be the pipe, organ, dice tower, sleeves, a real baton as opposed to the cardboard one, and a giant playmat, all added in for the $279, $400 MSRP, but $279 pledge over here. And then we have the Magnum Opus, Maximus Magnum Opus, which is basically giving you various access to prototype copies. So in this pledge, you get access to prototypes in addition to everything else as well. We have custom inserts over here. We have add-ons giving you a breakdown in case you want individually. If you're like, hey, I want the $169 pledge, but I really like those though over here, but I don't care about the rest. Well, for $40, so you have a $209, you can get all of that. So there are ways to mix and match and get the pledge level that you want. The real baton's only $15, which I mean, honestly, I haven't looked them up online, so I have no idea how much a real baton costs. You obviously do have the possibility of just getting a baton online. Like, I don't know what they cost, but if you can find a cool looking baton for like $9 on Amazon, you can also do that. So you have plenty of options over here. As far as should you back or should you not, well, let's go to shipping first. Shipping over here, shipping is going to run you $15, $20, or $25, depending on the pledge levels you're getting, and of course, depending on the region you're looking at as well. But that brings us to the should you back or should you not, will it hold its value, and it is hard to say for a variety of aspects. First of all, the game has a huge demand over here. We got 3,300 backers currently. This is going to cross 5,000 by the time it's done, if not more, and that's all for a large price point. But this is built on the back of Distilled, which was incredibly well received. The game itself is very well done. Like, I have no doubt at all that Luthier is going to be very well received, very well rated. It is a good game. It's a very good game. It feels like a Lacerda type game. It has everything works together. Everything looks beautiful, feels beautiful. It is just a well-produced game. And so overall, this will be sought after. The only question is will it hold its value is hard, just given how expensive things are, which it's pricing. Again, I think games are getting constantly more expensive. Once upon a time, you had things like Darwin's Journey, where like you have this Euro game where like the deluxe version is all blinged out and it's like $120, something like that. And now we have a deluxe blinged out versions that cost you $169 and to $279 or whatever that was. Was it $279? $279. So there's just a lot of costs here. So what we have here is a very expensive game that will be well received, but the cost does make me hesitant as to will it hold this value or will it not. You have to, if you spend $169 on this game and then the shipping on top of it, $189, you have to find someone down the road who's willing to pay $189 for this, and then judging by how well Lacerda games do, I am skeptical that will happen. So this is in a weird place for me, where the quality of the game normally would have me certain, yes, absolutely hold this value, but the sheer cost of it has me far less certain. I'm putting this in a strong risk category for me. Risk just meaning that I just can't give you any information either way. I have reasons to think it will and reasons to think it won't, and so if you do back this one, just back it with the understanding that it may or may not land for you, and if it doesn't, you may not be able to get someone else who's willing to pay $189 for that. Again, forget the $279 pledge, but that basic pledge, you may just have a hard time finding someone willing to shell out that much cash to get your copy of the game. Moving on, we have Rise of Babel. 539 backers, $61,000 raised, 17 days to go. Rise of Babel is going to have you constructing the Tower of Babel in a, across 3 rounds of play, basically. I was trying to figure out where to go. It's a deck building game. It's a deck building game which you're going to be building Tower Babel. It's got some worker placement, not worker placement. It's got some area control elements as you place your own different resources down onto Tower Babel, trying to construct different structures of the orders that they are, the way they line up in vertical, horizontal columns, different ways that they are, different configurations for different resources. But ultimately, it's a deck building game trying to improve your engine, trying to figure the right way to get your resources and deliver them and build and construct the Tower Babel across 3 rounds of play. That's the base game. There's an expansion as well. We'll get to that shortly. But the base game is going to be $49 for the base game. The expansion is going to add you asymmetric characters. You can have asymmetric characters, a whole little another mini puzzle added on. That's going to be $75 for the game. And with the all-in gameplay package for $95, that's going to give you these 3 little packs over here. And it's worth noting, by the way, these 3 packs are going to be more expensive in the Pledge Manager. So if you get this right now in the campaign itself versus waiting for the Pledge Manager, these packs will go up in price. So just factor that in. And we have this cool over here, $175 for the deluxe pledge with the giant premium box. Let's go ahead and scroll down because this over here matters. If you're interested in this game, that is definitely tempting. Although again, $175, we're going to have the same conversation in a second over here. But if you look at the premium box, let's scroll down over here, and there's lots of ways to mix and match as well. So you do have those options. If you want some things but not others, you do have that option. Let's just scroll down. We got past the asymmetric characters. Here we go. The Rise of Babel Legendary Box Trail over here. Just give you, I think I want to say here. Let's scroll over here. So you can have this over here, which gives you a different way to build the Rise of Babel in a much more 3D element as you build it up. It's going to give you these acrylic giant chunky tiles and all that. So this gives you an overall more premium gameplay experience, but again, at the cost of $175, which just bumps up the price significantly from that $95 gameplay all in. That's what you're paying for if you get this 3-level tower over here that you can slowly build it up. There actually is a funny little element here where the buildable area gets bigger as the tower gets smaller. The nature of a tower pyramid structure versus the gameplay mechanics. So this gets fully fledged out as a 5 versus 5, a 4 versus 4, and a 3 versus 3. You can check out a full gameplay and preview on the channel if you want to see more. That's basically the game. And then over here we have the cost of the game, $14, $16, and for the big box for the expansion over there, it's going to run you the cost for the game. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? It is also hard to say on this one. This one's not doing as well as their last game. The Flood overall, the Flood was generally, it was on crowdfunding. It definitely did fairly well. This is doing well enough, make no mistake, but not as well as the Flood. The Flood also only just delivered, which means we haven't really had a chance to see how well this game does in the second-hand market. The prices on it are definitely not cheap, but they're not crazy expensive either. Before you get to that $175, again, when you get to that $95 for a euro all-in, that is something that's still considered to be, like, again, acceptable as a relative term. But in the world of crowdfunding, when you're looking at $100 for an all-in on a euro game, that's something that we've learned to, like, stomach or whatnot, or get used to as far as how your game operates. The $175 over here is a different experience. You're definitely paying for a premium 3D tower. You're basically paying for like the deluxe acrylic tiles, the premium tower. You're paying a lot for that kind of experience. But again, same kind of conversation. Once you pay for shipping on this, are you going to find someone who's interested in paying you $200 for your copy of Rise of Babel just because of the nature of you have the 3D tower? And with 539 backers right now, I just don't know if the level of interest in the game is that high to be able to pull you in. So I do think, again, it's doing well enough in crowdfunding, but that you always see a dip in whatever number of people want it doing crowdfunding. It's less so later. So my instinct is that this is overall not going to hold its value if it's not going to hold its value in the second-hand market. But again, availability might be limited. So if you want to guarantee access, now is the safest way to get your hands on it. Moving on, we have Sprocketforge. I think this is our last campaign too. No, we have 2 campaigns. Sprocketforge over here, a gear turning engine builder, 292 backers, $28,000 raised, 24 days to go. This is coming to you from Sophisticated Cerberus Games, who did The Stifling Dark, another game that also, did it just deliver, or is it actively delivering soon? One of those two things. I think it's actively delivering soon, so I think it's on boats, it's showing up shortly, so people will be getting their copies ASAP, I believe. Am I right with that? I might be mixing up games, but I think so. Anyways, over here, we have the base game over here. Well, let's talk about the game. Sprocketforge is going to be an engine-building game with a very literal sense. You're going to have gears over here. You're going to be, well, there's a few things going on. First of all, it's going to be an action selection game in the sense that you're going to be taking actions every round. Whatever action you take, other players get a weaker version of that action. So it's one of those follow action systems. But past that, a big core part of this is the fact that you have these gears over here. These gears that you're going to be building your factory and upgrading the gears. So you're trying to literally upgrade the gears to get more and more out of the system. You're going to be generating mana. Unspent mana is going to go on the gears. But you have to be mindful not to actually let that sit too long. You have to try to basically take advantage of it, because otherwise you have an inefficient system and players will be dealing with you, or systems in the game will deal with you less if you have too much mana reserved on your gears. So you're trying to be mindful of a bunch of different things as you try to cash in different things, accomplish different goals. That's the basic idea. It's a very strong engine building game where you're going to be literally trying to improve and deluxify your engine as you go through it. The base game is going to run you $60, I believe, $60 for the base game off of a $70 MSRP. Again, you know my usual stance on that over there. We have $100 for the Runesmith on $115 MSRP. Again, so when you get to these higher pledges where there's more deluxe components, it is a little trickier because the MSRP on some of these things are a little more imagined because they're not really as available. So it's more of a slightly imagined, which is where when you're talking about a retail base game, again, it's going to show up in retail. I look at that MSRP as a genuine MSRP, and your $10 savings is not going to save you any money. It's not going to do you any favors. Because once you get a higher level deluxeifications and things that don't actually show up in retail, it is a little bit more magic math where you're making up an MSRP on a thing that may never show up in a setting that would charge MSRP. So it's magic numbers. But over here, we have $115 for the, if you want to get the, $100 if you want to get the resin resources or whatnot added on. Wait, 1 second, did I do this right? Yeah, over here, $60 for the base experience, $100 is going to give you the resin resources, $120 is going to give you the metal gears. Now keep in mind, you're not getting the resin resources. If you get the Tinkerer pledge, you are not getting the resin resources, you're upgrading the gears. If you go to the Noble, the all-in, $150, that's where you're upgrading both of them on the game. And then Grand Artificer is naming your own house in the guilds. It's one of those like more customized content in the game. That's means the you've actually not the oldest value. Again, based on how well the campaign is doing, it just doesn't have that audience as much. The game is also not cheap. Again, we have a few euros in a row that are definitely giving you different ways to spend lots and lots of money on upgrading your experiences. I think $150 is for sure. Like, I just think the lower pledges, I just think it's a lot for a retail game once you factor in shipping as well. And the higher pledges, let's see how much shipping is. Shipping will be like, $20 or $24 depending on what you're getting. That just adds. It means your base game is an $80 game, which when you're comparing to other things you can get your hands on nowadays, again, going back to Forgotten Waters and whatnot, you can go ahead and get those games for $48 at retail now, or you can pay $80 for a crowdfunding game for the base version of the game. It's a small publisher cost. I always feel bad on these, but like realistically speaking, when you're comparing it to the games out there, I just think these are less likely to hold the value, just given the price point of what you're getting versus what other types of games are out there. Moving on over here, we have the last campaign of the day. We have Winds of Numa, Sera. Winds of Numa, Sera, the board game. 886 backers, 26 days to go, $98,000 raised. Winds of Numa, Sera is going to be an engine-building strategy game of trading, barter, negotiation as you try to achieve 1 or 2 of 4 victory conditions. This is a short game, this is a long game. Basically trying to achieve, let's say, there's 4 victory conditions at play. You can either conquer 4 kingdoms, I believe it was, earn 5 classes, which each have their own distinct way to earn them. You can basically conquer... Ow. I just jabbed my finger in a way that like, triggered a funny bone reaction. Like my finger feels like it's tingly. Wow. You can go ahead and kill 3 heroes, or the last way was you can get level 4 of any one skill. So you're trying to achieve 1 of those 4 victory conditions, or if you're playing the epic game, you're trying to achieve 2 of those 4 victory conditions. Past that, the game structure is very simple, very straightforward. Every single turn, you're going to go ahead and you're going to explore first, which basically means you're going through a deck of cards that are going to have a ton of different types of things that you can be drawing, different types of events or gear or things, just the stuff that's good or bad in the game. And then after exploring, you either are going to collect income and further build your engine, checking off your asymmetric little boxes on your player board, give you all kinds of different abilities, or alternatively, you go ahead and conquer something or fight something. You can fight a stronghold, you can fight an opponent stronghold, or you can fight a player. So basically, every turn you explore, and then you choose a divergent pathway of how you're trying to build yourself out, and are constantly trying to get money. Meanwhile, every turn you can also take certain key actions, such as buying skills, buying gear. So you're just trying to figure out different ways to level up. You can trade and barter with other players, which will be a fun thing, because you can sit there and say, hey, by the way, I know you're down to your last hero, but if I don't attack you this turn, do you want to give me that skill I can use? Because I could just take you out of the game, but I'd rather keep you in the game because I need to worry about them. So if you give me that skill, I'll leave you alive and I'll attack them instead. You can have threats, you can have bartering, you can have trading, all different kinds of things going on in the experience. The basic pledge over here is going to be $59 for a $75 value for $59. Again, usual thing over there. If we look at the math over here, let's go down to the math. The math is going to be $15 to $20 for the base game, which means, again, you're saving $16 and paying $15 to $20 in shipping. That's not much of a savings as far as things go. Same basic problem. We have the deluxe edition for $89. That's going to be a $160 value. That changes the whole conversation because that deluxe game is going to cost you $20 shipping, but it's giving you a $160 value. And again, we are working with a little magic math over here because of the fact that once you go past the retail version, you are dealing with made-up numbers, so I'm always a little bit more mindful, but at least there's now room to have a conversation. The basic version of the game, if it's going to show up in retail, you paid more to get it on crowdfunding. Versus once you get to the more advanced stuff, the base game over here, this is the base game, this is the what's in the deluxe. So over here in the deluxe, you're going to get the metal coins over here, and keep in mind, you're paying $30 more to get the deluxe. Metal coins alone can justify that cost, and I have the prototype. These metal coins, if these are the final ones, those are easily worth $30 as far as a coin set. You also have the blood-soaked Skull's Battle Die, you have the sigil dry erase markers, and then you have the spot-foiled box art and the spot-foiled cards. Overall, I think if you are interested in this game, I think the deluxe is easily worth the price of admission if you are upgrading that game or getting that game. On the other hand, once you go to the collector's bundle, I am more skeptical that it's worth the price of admission, because you're jumping from $89 $89 to $199 for the collectors. And what do you get for that additional $100+ $110? You get $110. You're going to get dual layered kingdom mats, which are nice, but not $110 nice. You get 4 attacker Batman miniatures. Again, cool, but you know. We have the epic characters and matte cloth tapestry. We have the graphic novel, luxurious linen on the cards, and then box art with gold leaf foiling. Now, my own 2 cents is, again, a consumer, a gamer, and all that. I just don't think that's worth that level of upgrade. And you can see over here, we have 10 people backing at the base game. We have 344 backing at the deluxe, and 245 at the collector's edition limited. So again, overall, we also have additional 200 backers who got the base game early, which that's a price point that's reasonable enough. That's basically what we got as far as the pledges over here. So, and they do have limited inventory on all of these, I should say. They have limited inventory on these, so there's several Kickstarter exclusive items. You only get them. Certain items also have limited inventory. Again, so far, assuming that holds true, you always want to pay attention to those backer numbers. If it starts changing from 400 to 407 or 415 all of a sudden, that changes the entire conversation. But it does look like they are doing actual limited inventory on these. But that's basically what we got for Winds of Numa Sera. It is a very premium looking game, a premium feeling game, which brings us to the should you back or should you not will hold its value. That retail edition you definitely should skip on if you're interested in the game. I just don't think it's worth it. It's just get it at retail. I think the campaign is doing well enough, it's premium enough. I think it will find its partners in some way. You never really know the full retail availability of any game, but again, 900 backers, beautiful looking game. I don't think it's a guarantee, but I think by the time the campaign is done, I think you likely are looking at something that will have a retail presence. So if you're interested in the game, I probably would recommend the deluxe, not the insane one, but the regular medium tier. That's likely where you're going to get a good degree of a premium game that I think will do a decent job holding its value. Not a guarantee. Again, $89 is still a lot of money once you factor in the shipping. You're paying $110 for the game. Is it a $110 experience compared to other things out there? I don't know, but I will say that it has the look, it has the component quality, and it has gameplay quality, and all those things combined does make this feel like a premium game, and so I don't think it's a crazy conversation as far as holding its value. Not a guarantee, of course, but 2 cents and all that, I definitely see it as viable. And that's basically what we have for the campaigns today, which means it's time to go ahead and do our picks of the week. Picks of the week, I usually pick a game that I think is most likely to hold its value and a game that is my personal interest pick of the week. And to that end, let me just go through a quick recap of all these games over here to make sure I get caught up on all the things. But we have over here, we have Wandering, we have Kemet, Rise of the Gods, Luthier, Rise of the Thing Sprocket, and Winds of Numa Sera. So I'm going to go ahead and give my value pick of the week to Kemet, Rise of the Gods. I do think it is the one that is most likely to hold its value. Kemet is an established game that's had multiple versions, thousands and thousands of copies sold. It has stood the test of time, and a big box version of the game will be sought after, especially with limited quantity. You're probably looking at subsequent crowdfunding campaigns or the second-hand market if you want that, which does really make me think this one is the most likely to hold its value overall. As far as my personal interest pick of the week, it's hard. It's hard. There's a bunch I'm torn to, and Kemet would be one that is eligible. I like Kemet a lot. I just try to diversify my picks of the week overall. I think I will give it to Winds of Numa Sera. Winds of Numa Sera is one that I did have a chance to play this one. I overall enjoyed the gameplay. I'm not doing a full review over here, but I enjoyed it enough that I enjoyed it enough that this one would be my personal interest pick of the week. I kind of want to dive into it more, play the full game, going through the 2 goals and all that, and really seeing how things play out. But ultimately, that's Winds of Numa Sera is going to be my personal interest pick of the week. And that is basically what we have over here. That is upcoming campaigns. Let's talk about some upcoming campaigns. We have Jurassic Feud coming from Vesuvius Media that's going to be launching next week. 1,600 people following the campaign. This is a newer version of Catapult Feud. And then we have Ascension Legends, a new game in the Ascension universe, an all new standalone set coming to you from from the Ascension, from Stoneblade Entertainment, giving you more Ascension content to your life. And that is basically what we have over here. That has been your 2 back or not to back. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one. Sorry for the noise there. The bartender says, "We don't serve time travelers here." A time traveler walks into a bar.